Oh, Dean's back. Okay. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I have Carolyn Osbourn, and we are going to be talking about something very exciting, something that people need to know about because so many dogs struggle with it, which is reactivity. So I'm just going to mute you, Monica. There's a bit of a feedback. Yeah, so let's talk about reactivity. If anybody has any questions, feel free to write in the chat so we can address them, but we might just talk about reactivity in general first, Carolyn. Why do you think dogs get reactive or become reactive?
Well, there's always a reason. It could be for many reasons. Some dogs might be anxious, some dogs might be scared of something, fearful. It can be due to, I don't really like it when people keep saying socialisation. It can be not the right socialisation. So, I mean, I hold my hands up to that. Pre my training with our George all those years ago, our dog who passed away last year, I thought socialisation was taking him up to every dog, every person. So that was George's normal, to go up to every dog, every person. If he didn't get to see those people, he would get frustrated. So you might see a little bit of, he wouldn't bark, reactive, but he'd want to pull to get to them. But equally, you can get some dogs who then end up reacting, barking, because they're so frustrated they want to get near the dogs. So it can happen for a number of reasons. It can happen when dogs are put in situations where they become fearful. So then they'll bark because they're on a lead, they can't get out of that situation. So there's so many reasons why reactivity does occur, but there's always a reason. Some people label poor dogs as being naughty dogs. They're not generally naughty, not from the dog's point of view. It's our point of view. We think they're being naughty. They're actually trying to express that they're worried about something. They're frustrated. They're feeling fearful. So we have to look at the reasons why that's happening in the first place and the possible causes. Sometimes it's a genetic disposition that they may be reactive or anxious rather. So yeah, it's really drilling down as to the reasons for that.
How important is it to understand the reason when we're addressing it, when addressing the reactivity?
Because we need to get to the root cause of the problem. It's no good just treating the symptoms. I see too many dogs where I had a phone call the other week from someone, the rescue dog, been in the house a number of weeks, not many, and then started to become reactive. And they'd called another trainer, and the trainer's answer was they were going to put the dog in front of whatever they thought the dog was reacting to. So this dog, they thought it may be other dogs. So they were literally going to put it in front of the dog and keep correcting it until they stopped reacting, which why do that? It's madness, absolute madness. That poor dog is already trying to settle down. Their trigger stacked more than likely. They're not coping. And that's the thing, they're not coping. So they don't need extra pressure put on top of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We were talking about that with Michaela in the last session. So yeah, that whole kind of flooding a dog that's already fearful. And prior to my educating myself and doing my own, training and stuff, I did go to a big name trainer that's what they did. It was just complete flooding. They'd get a room full of dogs. Everybody would be walking around in a circle. Then the reactive dog was forced to be in that room with them. And if it reacted, it got corrected, generally had a muzzle on. Really unpleasant. And you could see the dogs, they weren't happy. They'd just shut down and get more and more fearful. And then they have to walk around the room with these dogs. And it didn't fix the problem. It just, in that moment, it looked fixed, but what you actually saw, if you knew what you were looking at, was a dog that was shut down.
Yeah, completely. The dog is completely worn out. And my problem with that as well is, like I said to the person I spoke to on the phone the other week, at the end of the day, your rescue dog is not only decompressing at the moment, they're learning what they can trust. They're getting used to new signs. They've got so much going on. But the one person who they should be able to trust in all of this, they then think, well, you're putting me in this situation. You've got me on a lead. You're pulling that lead when I'm blatantly telling you I cannot cope. So gradually you're just dismantling this poor dog down further and further until you get a shut down dog.
Yeah.
But the poor people don't realise that, same as we didn't realise with George when we got a trainer
No.
in, all those to go, I hold my hands up. But it's so frustrating for us to see, because when you know what to look for and you know what's going on inside the dog, it's actually really heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's not, it's just, it's, you don't know what you don't know, do you? So,
Mm.
and you look at you look at people who are supposedly the experts, and even though you and I both know the dog industry is unregulated, anyone can say, oh, I'm a dog psychologist. That's the favorite one, isn't it? And
Mm.
do a lot more damage. And I love what you just said. If you've just literally got a rescue, they need to know that you're their safe base, you're their safe place. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
And foundations need to be there first. They do.
yeah, yeah.
Completely.
You earlier you mentioned the socialization, and earlier this morning I was talking to Kelly Fahy about preventing reactivity, and we were talking about that word socialization and how confusing it can be, because it just seems like the wrong word, doesn't it? It's not really, you know,
Yeah,
for socialization with a human, you think maybe going to a party, or going somewhere to an outing or something like that. But for a
yeah.
dog, it doesn't look like that at all, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that's why I think that we have to be more and more careful with the wording that we use. It's careful exposure to things rather than socialization, because as you say, we take it more literally as humans. Socialization means going out meeting people, letting people pet your dog. Some dogs do not want to be petted. I see so many. I mean, I used to see it around the school, and again, I was guilty of that. As I say, we got George, he would have been 14 this year. So when we got George, my kids were younger, so I took him to the school. It was too much for him. But some dogs then become reactive because they were showing all their body language. Oh, I don't like being touched like this. I don't like this. I feel really, really scared of these humans. And then when they do become that little bit braver, they start reacting because they suddenly feel, well, when I bark or I growl, these people back away. Brilliant.
Yeah,
I've now
yeah,
got a way to deal with this. But
yeah.
then they get the people just reactive. And it's hard. It's hard. Really, really hard.
So if someone's got maybe a young dog, and maybe it's they don't recognize the signs, they do something like that, where they go to an environment where it's too overwhelming for the dog, and that develops into reactivity. Is that fixable in that environment, if that makes sense?
In that environment
Yeah,
at the
so
time,
let's say, yeah,
no, I'd take them out
so
of the environment.
pardon?
I would go right back to basics. I would then do desensitization. So take them completely out, let them decompress. I would keep them out of situations like that for a while. And then gradually, I bang on to my clients about body language. I think it's so important, and not just of your own dog, watching other people's dogs as well. Because
Mm,
again, the amount of people that bring their dogs over and they'll say, "Oh, they're fine, they're just playing," and dogs blatantly aren't playing or they're struggling as well. So I always tell my clients to not only watch theirs, watch the other dog as well. But take your dog out of the situation. You see their body language change, and it could be so subtle as well. Take them out, look at what was going on in that situation, and then do desensitization around that. So maybe if it's where you've had them at the school and now they're reactive to children running around, I would start doing distance work, but get a professional in to help you with it. It's so important. Um, Distance, they need the distance to be able to process and feel safe. So it would be literally, you might go over a park, you'd have your dog on a lead so everybody's safe. But if their body language is fine, you'd have children playing at a distance, and you would be playing with your dog and keep the sessions really, really short. That's the way that I would broach helping a dog who was beginning to react to things. But as I say, ultimately, I would get a professional in to help them with that. They need it.
yeah.
And don't put your dog in those situations. If you can see they're struggling, they don't need to go to the school with you. They don't need to be near children. If they don't want to be near children, near people with baseball caps, that scares them. They don't need to be. Look at what's bothering them and then start doing distance work with a professional.
So when we're talking about distance work, have you had dogs whose distance is just, whoa, it's like the speck in the distance sort of thing?
Completely, yeah. I've had dogs where I mean it can just be people sometimes, or dogs.
Yeah, yeah, whatever the
So
trick is,
we've
yeah.
had dogs who will literally be so hyper vigilant, they will be scanning a mile into the park looking for anything. So when we've got dogs like that, we desensitize. Usually you can tell with a dog like that, they get out of the street door, just going over the threshold, and you can see they're already hypervigilant. So we bring things right back to basics at that point as well. We start desensitizing them to that going over the threshold of the street door, just playing games on the street doorstep. So that going out into the big wide world isn't, oh my goodness, I'm going out, what am I going to see today? Just going and playing on the doorstep becomes, oh, I can cope with this. It's great fun going into this open world, and I don't have to take that extra step just yet.
Yeah.
One example was our Millie. We had an ex-puppy farm rescue dog. Millie, she was very shut down, and she would, if she didn't like a situation, she would literally go in a ball and just stop. And you could not, even picking her up, my husband would pick her up, and she would stay in that ball closed.
Wow.
So with Millie, we started just playing games before we actually even got outside the street door. And then we just came away, took her lead off, came in again. And then we gradually built up to going outside the street door, playing games outside, and then coming in again after a minute. And then it was literally baby steps, walking up the pathway. Yeah, good girl. Play a scatter food game. If she'd take the treat, sometimes she wouldn't if she was very stressed, and take her back in. Millie took absolutely months just to get her walking up the road to her house. So that's what I mean by baby steps. And sometimes you have to bring things right back to your doorstep, because that outside world, just going outside, is, for some dogs, oh my goodness, I just can't cut. So every step you take, they're getting trigger stacked more and more and more.
I think a lot of guardians struggle with the concept of, hey, maybe my dog isn't ready to go for a walk. So what else can we do? And they're like, but no, I have to take them for a walk. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally. And again, I mean, I was that kind of mindset before I started all my training. It's like, the dogs have to be walked. They enjoy their walks. Some dogs do not need a walk at that moment. They, especially the rescue dogs, the street dogs are a prime example as well. I mean, you do get quite a lot of good rescues now where they say to people, just let them stay in even for a couple of weeks, let them decompress, let them get used to the smells and noises around them first in their home, and then gradually expose them to the outside world. But some rescues don't advise that, and people take, and with puppies as well, take them straight out, and the dogs hear a noise, then they see something, then they see something else, and it can be one little thing in the end that completely throws them over the edge, and people say, oh, what are you getting upset about? It was only a leaf that went by. But they forget all these things have built up in the dog's head. They've been completely trigger stacked, and they cannot cope. So then the reacting starts. And then the outside walk becomes an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
What I hate seeing is people then resort to the slip leads, prong collars, and dogs are literally being strangled in order to get them to behave. And it's awful. It really is awful.
I think we also have to recognize, I'm sure you'll agree, that even if the dog is less reactive, or I don't want to use the word cured, but you know what I mean, it potentially looks like they've recovered from that reactivity. They're just like us, aren't they? They have good days and bad days. So there'd be a day where they're like, everything's fine, I'm happy, it's beautiful, the sun's out, la la la, and then there'll be a day where they're just struggling. Oh, hello, who have we got there? Oh, look at that little, is that a setter?
That's a setter.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anyone got any? You come.
He lives in Belgium. I'm from Belgium.
Oh wow. Oh, brilliant. Has anyone got any questions for Carolyn?
I do. So I want to kind of explore a little further on that incident that I'd been talking about previously. So I stay is very rural, so it's very farm area. And there's a lot of stray dogs and laborers who's got dogs in the yard. So there's like a cluster of houses where there's probably about 15, 16 dogs there, from puppies to older dogs. And yeah, since my male dog was little, like I always used to go walk there, he'd make friends. It was very nice. It was a very nice hierarchy of the dogs there, who kind of prevented any bullying or anything like that. And my dog became best friends with kind of the female head female dog that kind of managed all the others. She unfortunately passed away. when she gave birth to her second litter, she went scavenging by the road and got knocked. And I adopted one of her puppies, which is the female dog that I've got. But I always walked past there with the other dogs. It was very nice and social. And then one other day, somebody that was staying there, they must have gotten a new pit bull puppy. And this puppy was quite young. It was very interesting looking at, almost like a eggshell speckled look to it. Very beautiful. And how I met this puppy is this puppy literally dug a hole underneath the fence to get to me and my female dog. And she was like less than 6 months old. He was so crazy aggressive. He bit me repeatedly on my hand. And of course, my male dog, it's his environment where he's been every day. They're always off leash. They're friends with all the other dogs. He was about 100 meters in front of me. He turned around and obviously, came bolting down. And I did everything I could to manage him. Luckily, he always wears a harness. So I managed to grab him. And this little crazy pit bull puppy still went and was going at us. And I confronted people about it, and I said like this, I don't know what's going on. It's not normal for a puppy of this age to show this level of aggression, because usually puppies see other puppies, they want to come and play or something like that, but this dog literally was hyper fixated on my female puppy. He was a male. And I don't know if it's genetics or environmental. What if is there something, can that dog be rehabilitated? I unfortunately can't go there because I can't trust that dog is going to be under control and not have behavioral issues. And my dog is reactive towards the situation now. So it's kind of really limited what I can do with my dogs. I used to walk them there every day. But my question is specifically about a dog that's that young, that's that seemingly territorial, or I don't know what else to say, because obviously he saw us through the fence barrier. He tunneled his way through. He was relentless, and he would have gotten killed that day if I didn't manage my much 3-year-old male, unmuted male. He would have been killed because that dog attacked me and it attacked, my young female dog. My dog would have killed that dog if I didn't get that dog under control, because he was absolutely relentless. And even when my dog went for him, like, he wouldn't back down. It was so crazy that I still have some kind of trauma from that incident. Whereas like now when I see dogs that are, not on leash, I don't know what my dog is going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. And it's very much restricting, kind of like, and affecting me around other dogs and things like that, which I now want to walk with my dogs, but like, I just don't know what's going to happen. But it's always bothered me. I don't know, is that just a genetic fluke with that dog? Is that dog a dog that can be rehabilitated? Like, what do you do when you have a young dog that's showing that kind of behavior?
There could be loads going on there, couldn't there? I mean, that's really hard to say. It could be genetic. It could be, I mean, did you say they're just yard dogs? They're just kept there, like,
yeah,
does
so
someone
the
look after
dogs
them?
keep, like, kind of maintain themselves. They're not
Right.
really like pets. So they're almost, it's more like it's farm laborers. And yeah, there's kids there, and but it's not, it's people keeping the dogs for security. They're not really
Right.
keeping them for companions,
Yeah.
and but there's lots of dogs there, young dogs, older dogs, kids, and it's nobody's in leash, nobody keeps the yard closed. They kind of roam the way that they want to. But this puppy that day, the yard was closed and the gate was closed, and this puppy just locked on my young female puppy, and he was just so fixated on her. Even when I was trying to interfere, like, he wouldn't even acknowledge my existence, and he basically bit me because I was getting in between him and my female dog. And even when my male dog came barreling down and like literally would have killed him, like, he was still so fixated, like, he didn't care what was going on around him. He didn't care about my male dog. He wanted to get to her, which is weird because even though she's young, she wasn't smaller than him. She was like the similar size, similar age, you know, they're young, then they're like, yeah, it was very, very strange. And when I confronted the people about it, their answer was like, well, I should just not walk there, you know, which was very heartbreaking.
Well, it sounds like they need to do something about their fencing and maybe make sure that they can't dig underneath. They need fencing that actually goes in the
I
ground.
called
to
law
start.
enforcement. I tried to do like something about it. Nothing ever came of it. So, you know, unfortunately, in the rural areas, they don't see that as an issue. Everybody's kind of attitude is, well, you don't walk there. Because so yeah, it's unfortunate.
I mean, with regard to that dog, that's so hard to say. I mean, it sounds like they're feral dogs, really. Would you agree, Ness?
Yeah, and you know, territorial, especially if they're kept there for guard dogs, probably not getting their needs met. You know, like they're not getting their genetic, you know, enrichment needs met.
But there's a brand new dog that's joined that place. It wasn't there before. I don't think the dog had been there for more than 2 weeks. So he was brand new in the kind of on the property there. And I mean, he was brand new puppy. I mean, I don't even know if he was 6 months old. He was a puppy, like what you would think, like, oh, look, cute puppy.
Yeah,
and he was
as well, couldn't it?
out of his mind.
Well, maybe he's been attacked by other dogs. Like, you just don't know. It's a big.
We just don't know his history.
Pain. Well, not pain, maybe in that case, but yeah. Monique says, how can I recognize the right triggers? That's an interesting question. My dog loves walking and used to avoid approaching strangers, but recently he started doing so. I'm not sure he wants attention or wants them to go back. He barks and lunges towards them, and the reaction is the same towards strangers and individuals he knows and enjoys.
Right. So I think it is hard to say sometimes whether it's frustration and things like that. If your dog is already reacting, they need more space. So with all of my clients, whether that be rescue dog clients, puppy clients, I always say to them, if you're walking along the street, make sure you've got distance from any other triggers where your dog may react, so that they can process and look at you. The other thing is sometimes you'll be walking past another dog and it could be that dog's that little bit older and they're actually calmer than your dog, but they are inviting your dog over too. So your dog kind of set up to fail. So I always say try and create as much distance as possible. As you're going by, make yourself more appealing than what's going on around. So play a game with them. Ready, steady, get it. You could be putting treats down. You could pull a toy out. Yeah, play with them as you go past the dog. And then once you're past, you stop playing. So what you're showing is, even though you see another dog that they may react to, you make yourself more appealing. You show them an alternative behaviour. And then once you're past that dog, you stop the play and you continue your walk. So other dog doesn't mean your dog gets frustrated and reacts. Other dog means, well, we have fun when another dog appears, but you do need that distance. I do find with some, generally, if it's more reactivity where they're fearful, it's more, their barks are different. It's more kind of springy and direct kind of reacting on the lead. Whereas sometimes if it's more frustration, oh, I'm so excited to see you, their barks are different and they kind of bounce. It's more floppier movements. So again, it really is knowing your dog and knowing what their body language is telling you, how they react to certain things, their different barks, as well as I say, there's definitely a different tone to different barks and what they mean.
Yeah, isn't there? I was working in the office one day, and my dog sometimes hangs out on my bed and looks out the window, and she started barking, and I've never heard her bark like that before. And it wasn't like, oh, you know, I think there's something there, you know, alerting. And it wasn't like, oh, there's some bad thing there. It was just something completely different. Anyway, it turns out there was a snake in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And her bark was, wow, it was danger, danger, danger. Yeah, she wanted to get out there the worst way and kill it. But Monique says, so I'm interested in this part of the last sentence. So he barks and lunges towards them. The reaction is the same towards strangers and individuals that he knows and enjoys. So you're saying if he sees somebody he knows and enjoys, he barks and lunges as well. Is that correct, Monique? she's probably. Yeah, okay. And now he's doing it to strangers as well, but he used to avoid strangers. Yeah. So yeah, I guess what Carolyn was saying about knowing your dog's, what does he look like when, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, it's kind of a bit of both then. I mean, what's her dog's personality like in general? Is he an anxious dog anyway? Is he normally quite confident? That's the other thing to look at. So if your dog can be quite anxious but likes certain dogs, it could be sometimes he does want to get to the certain dogs, so it's frustration. But if he has got that bit of anxiety about him as well, it could well be that he's doing well, I'm not really sure about this. So again, there's usually a difference. It really is. And as I say, I would use that distance so that you can see exactly what's going on as well. We'll look at his tail, his ears, his eyes, his different barks, his body stature as well when they go. As I say, the more frustrated but excited is generally floppier. Whereas I want you to stay back, I'm fearful is more taut and more direct generally. So really take your time to look at your dog, and in all different situations as well, but use the distance definitely first of all.
Mm.
Makes
Oh,
sense.
look at that little puppy. Oh,
Oh look.
little Jack.
Oh.
Oh. That's cute. Yeah.
Really cute.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, anyone else got some questions? Carla, have you? I will pay more attention. Yeah. And that it's knowing your dog, isn't it? I think I mentioned this in one of the interviews, but years ago, my Rottweiler and my Malinois, I filmed them for a minute and a half, and they were just playing. And then I put it on my computer because bigger screen and slowed it down and went through it second by second. And I missed so much. I was reading their body language and stuff, and the stuff you miss because they understand it. They're talking to each other, but yeah, it's really fascinating. It's good fun too.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone got any questions? Carla? You're sitting there.
It's the first time I'm live because the hour difference is a lot.
Yeah. That's okay. So Dean has said, hi, Carolyn. Not sure if you may remember Luna, the Pomsky
I do.
mini husky from your puppy training a couple of years ago. She's become very nervous in general, but especially on walks. She's scared of people and dogs, the distance walking towards us. In the distance, sorry, there was something covering it. What can I do to make her feel safe? I only let her meet 1 to 10 dogs/people, and she doesn't accept high value treats when she's nervous.
Yeah, some won't when they're really, really stressed. Was there a trigger, Dean? When did this happen? Can you pinpoint when it actually began? And was there a trigger?
And how old she was.
Yeah.
It's possible maybe she was going through a fear period or something.
Period. Yeah. Because that would really help. Going into season as well. I don't know if she's been spayed, but when they're going into season, I know with our lab leading up to her season, she was very erratic. Things were getting to her more than they would normally. To look at pain sometimes as well. It could be they're feeding poorly. Had a dog fairly recently, had an ear infection. We saw a change in their behaviour too. So there could be
ear
a few things going on, but it'd be interesting to know a bit of background as to what was going on. Can you pinpoint to when Luna first started reacting or feeling nervous? And then we can drill down.
I must say,
message me anytime as well. You know that, so I know him.
Yeah. How do you remember Luna from a couple of years ago? Like you must see so many dogs. That's pretty impressive.
I remember most of mine. I always say to people after they've finished my classes and my one-to-ones, I always say that once you've used me, you're kind of part of the K9ology family. So I say, even if you don't come to any of the other classes, whatever, just give me little updates. So a lot of people give me updates, and I had quite a few from Luna and her family. So it was really, really lovely.
That's
so
nice.
yeah. I always try to remember them all, and my classes are only small each time. They're maximum 6, so that makes it a lot easier to remember everyone anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're kind of working almost one-on-one with a class that small. What was I
yeah.
going to say? Yeah, I always kind of fall in love with my dog clients. Oh, you reach out. She's doing well with the training. Oh,
Oh, excellent.
I'd
Yeah,
still
no,
like
let
to
me
know,
know those
Dean.
details.
Yeah, I'd still like to know, Dean, a bit more. I mean, since we're in this
Oh,
environment, yeah, if you could tell us how, did something happen? Was it a certain age? Was she like Carolyn said, in season? Yeah, be interesting to know.
Mm.
Yeah. And so Carolyn, obviously, I'm sure you would say that, if a dog's not accepting treats, especially if they're high value, they're not ready to.
They're not coping. Generally, if they won't take the treats, they can't play the games. They literally, you could wave a steak in front of some of their noses, and they would not want that steak if they're that highly stressed. They just can't. They're trying to process too much. And this is where the distance comes in. So I say to people, if you've seen your dog's body language change, try and get there before they react. So generally, if suddenly you see your dog's tail go down, maybe their ears go flat, some dogs, their body might become stiff and their eyes go wide. I always say, right, you see that happen, just automatic reaction, come on, it's fine, let's go. And you calmly take them out of that situation. Get as much distance as you can, and then try doing a scatter food game. Scatter food games are where you break up the treats tiny, just scatter them on the floor. If you can get them sniffing, it should help calm them down, and looking for the little tiny bits of treat, redirects them and gives them a job to do it. Add something positive as well. If they're already reacting, it's harder, of course. I've had some dogs, like we were talking about, dogs at the other end of a field kind of thing, where they react. And some dogs will literally spin around on a lead. I don't know if you've had that too, Ness, where they get themselves in such a tiz. With dogs like that, I say don't yank them away, but the best you can, just try and get them out of the situation. To keep your voice very, very calm. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Try and get them out of that situation. When you get them to a distance, then try getting that nose to the ground. Some dogs, it can be once they've calmed down a bit, they still want the treats. Maybe a massage for some dogs. Just a very calm, come on, it's fine. Come on, it's fine. Try and stay as calm as you can as well, though. Another thing that I really hate reading and hearing is when you get told not to reassure your dogs. You're fine to reassure your dogs. You cannot reinforce fear. So if your dog is scared of something, they rely on us to help them. The big difference would be what I say to my clients. If you were to pick your dog up and say, or quickly get your dog, say, come on, my baby, I'm going to take you to safety. They're going to pick up on your emotions. So they are going to then start thinking, well, hold on a minute. I was really worried. I could see you were really worried. I'm going to have to look out for that in the future, and for us both, kind of thing. Whereas if they see you calm, they then think, oh, well, mum, dad, the family, they were pretty calm about this. They got us to that situation, and then we done that fun game, or I had a nice massage. Oh, and then it was all fine again. So you're fine to reassure your dogs as long as you're calm when you do it as well. So as I say, a nice massage when you've got them to a distance, the sprinkling calming game, asking them to find it. Come on, find it, circle above where the treats are. See if you can get that nose working. It's what works for your dog at the end of the day. It really is. Every dog's different, just like us, like we were saying earlier, not to humanise them, but they really can be more like us than we think. They have their quirks, their personalities, their likes, their dislikes, and they're allowed to have that as well.
Yeah.
I think old style training was, oh, well, dogs are dogs kind of thing. We didn't take into account their emotions. Dogs are sentient beings. They have their emotions too, and we have to respect that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think if the dog's not taking treats when they normally would in other circumstances, at least that's information we have. It's not ideal that they're put into that situation. Obviously, we want to try and avoid that and then close the gap kind of thing. But yeah, it's still good information, I suppose, at the end, to looking at it positively. Look at those two dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's cute.
Oh, no.
Oh, it doesn't get much cuter than that. Yeah. Anyone else got any questions? Or Caroline, I think you were going to, I know you mentioned some of your other cases, but has there any other one that, or a couple of cases that you think would be informative or instructive?
Yeah, we've had all sorts of ones. I had a few recently that have been particularly heartbreaking as well. As I was saying, there was that one rescue dog where the other trainer was then going to put it in a room with another dog and just to make it submit, really. Totally wrong. That dog needed decompression time. Well, I think, I haven't seen this dog. I think that dog needed things taken right back again. I think it was probably trigger stacked. And just couldn't cope anymore.
Yeah.
And then the reacting to everything had come out. Also, what I said to the people when they called me, I said, do we need a thorough vet check done? There could be a pain factor in all of this. The dog will be struggling because it's in pain or discomfort. That's one of my golden rules as well. When people ring me and they say their dog has started reacting, I always say, is this a new or worsened behaviour? Because sometimes you can have an anxious dog where they're anxious anyway, but it's got worse, the anxiousness. So I say a thorough vet check then. And the amount of people that say to me, well, there's nothing wrong with them. I know there's not. And then we do find out sometimes, well, actually, the ear infections are a biggie that come up a lot. Pain in their legs. If they're older dogs, it can be arthritis setting in. Some older dogs, they can get a little bit like dementia and things as they get older. So then they can begin reacting to things they didn't react to before. So a thorough vet check, I think, is so important.
That's a good point, actually. Just, I mean, obviously the vet check, but the whole getting older dementia thing. So a friend of mine, and she's a dog trainer, and her dog is amazing. It's a German Shepherd, very, very well trained, and always listens to her, but a bit dog reactive, or quite dog reactive. But it's always under control, always, listens to her. She's never had an issue. And then this one time, it was off leash, but it's, been in that situation lots of times with, being on the field with another dog and being off leash, and it's been fine. But she hadn't been to, because my dog club hadn't been to training for a while, and the dog's just getting, older and older and older. And she called it because it was a little bit close to this other dog, and it went for the other dog and attacked it. It transpires, and I'm like, that's so unusual. Like, this just doesn't happen. And it turned out that dog was going deaf. She started to put two and two together and see it around the house, and because he's older, and just noticing he wasn't as attuned to what was happening outside, or wasn't doing the stuff that he would normally do. And it literally it attacked that other dog because it literally didn't hear her calling it
coming towards them. Yeah. And that's the thing. So when I say thorough vet check, I always say to potential clients or my clients that ring me when they say, oh, there's something wrong, and I say, right, get the thorough vet check done. I always say as well, not just the little checks that you have when they go for their vaccinations, where they just say,
proper one. Yeah.
A thorough vet check, all of their legs looked at. The vets will know if there's restricted movement or pain. Really thoroughly looking at their ears, around their tummy, their paws. I had another one where his condition had, his behaviour had worsened. He was an anxious dog. And funnily enough, his family did take him to the vets, and they said, well, we can't find anything. But he'd got a bit worse again. He seemed to get better, and then he got a bit worse. So again, we took him to the vets again and said, look, he's now sneezing a lot as well. He had a grass seed that had worked its way up his nose, and the vet said how much it had worked its way up. That's been going on a couple of months, and he would have been in so much pain. So they removed it, and then we started just doing some other work afterwards, and the training went much better, and he was back to where he was originally. Yeah. So it's all these things. I mean, obviously with the grass seed, we just didn't know at that point. We did do the vet check, but when things didn't improve, we went back and said, look, there must be more to this. So this is where the thorough vet checks come in.
Need a good vet.
It's very important. Yeah,
well,
but I do.
Go on. Sorry.
No, so I was going, sometimes I feel like I have to sell the vet checks, and it's not because I just want people spending their money. It's like I said to this person the other week, well, at the end of the day, we don't want to start behaviour modification. If your dog's feeling poorly, that can actually make them worse.
Yeah.
They're just, what you're doing to me, I already feel below par, and you've got this strange lady coming in, and so it's so important just to draw a line under anything underlying, and then we know, right, okay. I mean, there have been cases as well where things really don't improve, and then we've had bloods done. These are quite rare though, and when the bloods have come back, we've had elevated liver levels. There was one with elevated kidney levels. So again, that's just something on from there. But health does affect behaviour. It absolutely does. So if you see a new or worse condition, that can be anxiety, reactive behaviours, fearfulness, even resource guarding. I would always say get the vet check done first, and then you can say, right, okay, we know what we're starting with now. Let's start looking at behaviour and drilling down as to why we think this is really occurring.
Yeah. Well, I know myself when I've got an earache or something, I get really cranky. Get away from me. Don't. But one of my clients, her dog she's a separation anxiety client, but it also has reactivity issues, and she's been backwards and forwards to the vets, and the it's got some teeth issues, but on top of that, it's got thyroid issues, and now they've just put it on to thyroid medication, and she's seeing better behavior as the medication takes effect. And Michaela, in the last session, Michaela Landowski, she was telling us about Ziggy, her dog who's passed now, but at the time got very reactive from another dog humping it, and she's like, most dogs, okay, they may not like it, but after this one incident where she got humped by another dog, she wouldn't even let other dogs sniff her bum. She was that, and it turned out she had really bad spinal degeneration. So it's such an important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. And that was the same with George, again, our dog who passed away last year. When his cruciate started to go, he became reactive. Now, I mean, it's a very grey area. I don't get involved with neutering, but for George, we got him done too young. I didn't know anything back then. He was a big, stocky bully breed, and we got him done at 6 months. For the time George passed away, he'd had all of his legs done, and I do sometimes wonder if I'd have held off, then he wouldn't have been that bad.
You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
No. But he did, after he got neutered, he had so many dogs wanting to hump him. And of course, then his cruciate started to go. He became reactive. But literally, I mean, I've said this on my page. A lot of people know our story anyway. But I took him to the vet so many times, and they were turning me away. He would get in that vet and he would walk normally. No word of a lie. One day he was really shaky. Yeah, no, he was literally really shaky on his legs. And I said, look, and he did limp a little bit that day at the vets, and they'd done the scan, and they said, yeah, no, his cruciates were going. It's practically now nearly gone. But from that day forward, George was fine again, but he did not like dogs sniffing around his legs. And I put it down to when the dogs were trying to hump him and he was already in pain. This was pre my training. I was then telling George off for being aggressive when he was just telling them to back away. And yeah, poor old George, he really suffered in more ways than one with that. Yeah. So again, it comes down to really knowing your dog. I can't emphasize enough knowing your dog's body language, the way they're normal to when they're not normal is, knowing their reactions to when their reactions are a little bit off, and thinking, hold on a minute, could this be something going on internally rather than just, or like you say, sometimes they are just having a bad day, like us. So I've said as well. Is it that they've been up all night for some reason? Might be foxes out in the gardens, so they're a bit croggly because of the lack of sleep. Have the family been making a lot of noise, something going on at home? That can affect them too. So there's so much that can affect them and their behaviour. There really is.
I don't think people appreciate how many hours a dog needs to sleep, like an adult dog. It's a lot. I mean, right up to 17 hours or something like that. So if they're not getting enough sleep for some reason, maybe you've got guests or, it can make them cranky for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, just like us, if I don't get my sleep, I'm really, really cranky.
Oh no. What was I going to ask you? I forget. Oh God, I'm pretty brain dead at the moment, so please forgive me. But yeah, so do you think people are sold this dream of waving a magic, come and see me as a dog trainer, I'm going to wave my magic wand, I'm going to fix the solution, and off you trot, and everything's fine. Obviously, it's a process though, isn't it? I'm not going to ask you how long does it take, because I know what you're going to say. It depends on the dog and the blah, blah.
Yeah, no, it does depend on the dog. It's how long is a piece of string, really. I think because of social media and the television, where you see these trainers on the television where they've got this highly reactive dog, and then suddenly the dog is just a dream walking through. I think that some people don't realise there's a lot gone on in the middle. Now, whether that's where the dog has been pulled around and then they've been shut down, or sometimes they may have put the work in between and then you're being shown the after effects. But every dog is different, and real behaviour modification takes time. And if you're really going to work at desensitising your dog to whatever it is that's bothering them, helping them at the core of whatever is bothering them, then that is going to take time. And as I say, every dog is different anyway. You're going to have good days and bad days. It's not a process that can be rushed. And you have to take into account what's going on with the dog at that time as well. So if you've had a big family barbecue that weekend, your dog may be really, really tired, and that may set you back a bit with the training. If you go away on holiday, that may set your dog back a bit with the training and things like that. So yeah, you can't really say, but I do say to all of my clients, don't believe everything that you see on social media and things like that. That's not real life. It really, really isn't.
No. And I guess it would depend also if on the cause. So I mean, a dog that's generally anxious, a dog that's gone through some sort of trauma, as opposed to maybe a dog that would be relatively confident, but maybe went through the whole COVID lockdown stuff and didn't get exposed to the stuff that they could have. They might be, or if it's based in frustration as opposed to trauma, fear, etc. Some dogs might be a quicker fix than other dogs.
Exactly. Well, like I was saying about our Millie, our ex-puppy farm dog, that was months and months, and then we'd have suddenly where we backtracked, and then we'd start again. You cater to the dog in front of you. There is no rush. You do everything around them, and they're allowed to have their bad days. Look at what was going on around them, and then just dust yourselves down and start again. As well, one thing to mention: dogs who are really, really stressed. So again, you see some of these videos on social media where dogs are going absolutely garrity. A lot of dogs can take up, well, it could take weeks for some dogs, but usually for the dog's stress levels to actually come down, it could take a good few days as well. Some of these dogs, when they've had a really, really a reactive dog out in the street, if they've had a really bad walk where they've just been exposed to one trigger after another, and it happens sometimes, you can't call your dog walks. It could be you've walked out, you thought you were going to have a quiet walk, and it was dog central, and then a big bus went by and startled the dog as well. That dog, depending on its personality, its history, genetics, it may take even longer to settle down again and decompress than the dog next door, say. So I say to my clients, so if you had a really, really bad dog walk, and you've both come back feeling frazzled, have a day or two off. Do minding indoors. Let your dog fully decompress. And as I say, every dog's different. It may be you need a couple of days off. But to then put the dog in the same situation when their body hasn't properly calmed down again, all you're doing is setting both of yourselves up for failure each time, and it's not fair on either of them. And again, it is, like we were saying earlier, getting it out of your head. My dog needs to be walked. My dog needs to be walked. Sometimes that dog being on a lead is going to be so stressful for that dog, because on a lead, we take away their flight instinct, or well, we do. So the stress is there before they've even moved off the doorstep. So yeah, it is getting your head around your dog's needs, what they need at the time, what's going to help them going forward. And there's plenty of things you can do at home to help them feel really safe with you. And then you start on the next stages to desensitizing them on their walks and helping them. And I say to people as well, don't feel that you have to walk dogs for hours and hours too. A good sniffy walk, just going up the road where you're just letting them sniff, letting them investigate, and then coming back after 10 minutes can be more worthwhile than doing a frog march for an hour where the dog's just thinking, oh my goodness, I can't cope with that, I can't cope with that. And again, feeling like the person they should be able to trust has made them do all of that. So it is adapting to your dog. But as I say, I would always advise get a accredited professional in to help always.
Yeah. And I think, like you're saying about the whole body language thing, if you are frog marching your dog up the road and they're struggling, you need to know that they're struggling and that maybe that's not the right thing at that particular time to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Body language is so important. As I have it with my clients, oh God, Caroline's going off on the game, but it's so important. If I had my way, I think every breeder, every rescue centre would give the new families lists of charts for body language. You don't want to trigger stack them either or think like overwhelm them. But at the end of the day, if you know just the signs to look out for that your dog isn't struggling, if you can then calmly take them away from that situation, they then know, well, actually, I was feeling unsure about that. My family, they seem to know, they take me out of that. We play a game and I feel safe. And it's that, if you can build up your dog's trust and confidence, you're halfway there. So
trust and confidence,
yeah.
Just talking about the body language, you've got resources that people can so jump onto the website.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're going to put my email address up and then they're going to message me. They can email me.
Yeah, I did that on the course. On the summit. Yeah.
Definitely. If they go through my page anyway, it's full of things about body language too. So so important.
Because hopefully there'll be some people watching this on replay as well, so they can get into K9ology in the UK and tap into your resources as well. Yeah, but
lovely.
Unless there's any other questions, we might let you rest your voice. You did really well.
I'm so pleased I haven't gone into a coughing fit.
I think you did good. A little bit croaky, but nothing untoward. So yeah. But thank you so much, Carolyn. It's been amazing talking to you again. And thank you for being part of the summit and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Lovely to meet everyone too.
Yeah, everybody. Take care.
Take care. Bye.